back, friends. It's Tack. I just want to get your guys' opinion on something. Something I've been trying to figure out for myself. I pretty much thought I had it figured out, but going through it again just to make sure what I thought is right. And this comes to which blade size, because the bigger the blade, usually the better the chopper. Now this is talking about a chopper, something you'd want to carry in the wilderness with you. What's the max length that is comfortable for you to wear on your hip? I'm not saying on your backpack, slung across your back like a ninja sword. Just talking about on your hip. What is the max length that you can carry that doesn't really bother you? Now I know if you're in the jungle, you might want a full-size machete, like this 18-inch SOG right here. And even if it's a pain in the butt to carry, you might have to carry it just because that's your terrain. Just like you go far north, you're going to have to carry an axe of some kind. Even if it's a small forest axe, you're going to have to carry a freaking axe. So, besides that, what's the biggest size that's comfortable for you? Now, I've tried the 18-inch multiple times. Last time was on the camping trip in the swamp, and it was hell having that 18-inch. Because you're climbing over stuff, your feet are getting stuck in the mud. It's going dick in the dirt all the time. You can't sit down or anything because it instantly jabs into the ground. If you raise your knee up high, this can catch on the bottom of your pant leg. The sheath itself, I've had that happen multiple times. So it messes with you. So an 18-inch for me was just way too gigantic. So I thought I'd try the next best, 16-inch. Here's an example, Cold Steel Jungle Machete. Awesome machete. You can check out my review of it. Dude, definitely cool. A little primitive the edge, but if you touch it up yourself, this thing actually rocks really well. But same thing. I'm a shorter person. Now this can be different for anybody. The taller you are, the bigger blade you can probably carry. So this is just for me anyways, being a shorter person. Even the 16-inch, still too much. Actually way too much. I mean, same thing, it's catching my pant leg. When you try to sit down and stab it in the dirt, you gotta tip it back like a frickin' sword. Definitely, it kicks ass. I love the power of big stuff. But man, carrying it is a pain in the butt. It's like, back in the day, I'd rather carry, for a rifle, a 30 cal battle rifle. I'd rather carry the big dog, because that's the way I was taught. All the old school dudes were into the 30 cal battle rifles. And that's what I was taught. Oh, the 223, it's a girl's gun. You can't kill a man with that. You can. But this is what the old guys would say, because they're used to their 30 cals. So that's who I learned from. And I just thought that's just how it is. You got to carry this 10-pound rifle. Suck it up, soldier. The thing's freaking huge. It's got an 18, 19, 20-inch barrel on it. You just got a Jones. That's how it is. And that's what I did for years. That's how I learned. But then you do, suck up your pride, grab that AR-15 and run around the woods with that, and oh my God, what a difference. Yeah, it ain't as badass as a 30 cal. But man, just having that, it's so much lighter. You get less fatigue, the speed. It's easier to move through the woods. You're not getting hooked on phonics every 5 seconds. That thing's like 4 pounds less, or at least 3.5 pounds less. That's a big difference. So it's kind of like this with blades. If something's too big, yeah, it's badass. But if it's going to be too much of a pain in the butt, it's going to, get you hurt. It's going to get snagged on shit all the time. Then it's not as, you got to do pluses and minuses. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So the 16 for me is still too big. Now you might be asking yourself, well, what size is the smallest you would even consider for chopping? Well, probably a 6-inch. 6-inch blade like this Tac Ops 6 from Blackjack. That's probably the minimum size I would consider for chopping. 5 can do it, anything can do it. You can do anything with anything, it's just going to take you a lot more work, a lot more effort. And even a 6-inch, for me, is still too small, but this would be like the minimum I'd want to carry out in the woods. I'm not going to go out in the woods with something smaller than this and be like, oh, I'm good. I'm going to at least want a 6-inch. You know, because you don't always carry a saw with you. You don't always carry an axe with you. So you want at least a 6-inch blade. But like I said, definitely not mean enough for chopping, I don't think. So here's a BK7 Ka-Bar 7-inch blade. That's a lot fatter too, so there's a lot more mass. You know, this is definitely decent. This is like when you're starting to actually getting into some chopping power. A 7-inch blade, something beefy like this. But for me, that's still not enough. You know, so max. So that's like the minimum. Back to the maximum, or what's the minimum maximum, I should say. There's a Kershaw Camp 14. Frickin' love that thing. Wow, did a test on that. This thing frickin' rocks. Man, look at that blade. But it's big. It's still big. It's still too big. For me, it's still hitting my leg. If I can't kneel down to do some work on some, you know, a fireplace or something without this stabbing into the ground, this is a pain in the butt. And I still don't need this much power. I've used a lot smaller blades that have enough power to do the job. So for the minimum size for me, what would I choose if I didn't have an axe and a saw? That for me, it'd have to be an 8-inch blade. Give me at least an 8-inch blade and I feel comfortable enough. I don't have to have an axe. You know, you're not gonna stay out there for a freaking month. If you were doing that, then of course, God, give me an axe, please. But if not, at least an 8-inch blade. Like this Blackjack Tac Ops 8. This thing is sweet. Check out my test review on this. Did freaking awesome. Love this thing. This has enough power to do some chopping and make it count. But I still would like bigger. But for me, an 8-inch, that's like the minimum size. I'd say that's adequate. Ka-Bar BK9. This thing's well known, well used, well tested. Not this particular one. I still got to test this one, but you can just look up bids for yourself. Definitely has enough power to do some chopping. Now for me, this thing was actually pretty freaking awesome, and I was pretty damn impressed by this. This thing's dirty, the poor handle and stuff, but Essie Hoonglass, man, love this. Just over a 10-inch blade. Now for me, this is probably the size I would end up carrying. Look at all the damn dirt on there and shit in my hands. This thing did a lot of damage. Man, this thing is probably what I would carry. For me being shorter. So like I said, a 14-inch blade was too much. I want a minimum an 8. Here's a 12-inch. CRKT, Chance and Hell. This thing did really good too. You can check out my review of that as well. This thing was awesome. Good grip, good power, a little thin, but man, it took everything I did to it. You can see the battle scars and stuff. This thing was awesome. This is probably the maximum size I can carry. Maximum. About a 12-inch blade. This is something that won't go past my knee, so it doesn't mess with me. So probably this is the maximum size, but this is probably the choice I would take. Just so it's a little bit smaller, but it still has tons of power. Will do everything I want it to do. And it's really not that expensive. Essie Hoonglass, it's about $190, something like that. The thing's badass though. 1095 carbon steel, well made. Like I said, you can check out my review on that. That's what I'd end up choosing for the biggest knife I'd carry on my hip. Thanks as always for stopping by, hanging out with your brother Tac, and until the next time we meet.